Welcome to Sales Players, the #1 podcast for top players in B2B sales.
Whether you're a seasoned pro or just starting out in the world of sales, this is the show for you.
We're all about bringing you fresh, actionable ideas to supercharge your rev gen game.
We dive deep into the mindset, habits, and tools used by top performers in the industry. Generate more leads, close more deals, and build wealth and financial security in B2B sales.
So if you're ready to level up, you've come to the right place. Join the conversation with other like-minded sales players and continue the discussion beyond the show.
Hit the subscribe button, tune into the Sales Players, and let's start winning together. Hey there, Sales Players. Today's episode is brought to you by our amazing new sponsor, Lemlist. Whether you're closing deals or nurturing leads, Lemlist is your all-in-one platform for personalization outreach that converts. Picture this. You craft a killer email campaign in minutes using Lemlist's intuitive drag-and-drop editor. Want to stand out? Lemlist is here to help with advanced personalization that lets you dynamically insert custom images, videos, and even personalized landing pages based on your persona. With Lemlist Analytics, you'll know exactly who opened, clicked, and replied to your emails. Join thousands of sales professionals who trust Lemlist to supercharge their outreach efforts. Use the link in the show notes below and start your free trial today. Your personalized outreach just got a whole lot easier. Happy selling.
What's going on, sales players? It's Jesse here, and I want to introduce you to a genuinely cool product that we just learned about called Evie AI. It is a LinkedIn AI content assistant that was built to enhance your LinkedIn presence, increase your exposure and productivity as a seller. You can create personas, generate ideas, generate comments, craft posts, and 10x your LinkedIn presence. We actually had Joe, the founder, on the show, and he was kind enough to put together a special offer for sales players. There is a link in the show notes with more details. Go check out Evie AI. That's EVY AI. All right. We are officially live here with the man himself, Scott Leese. Scott, welcome back to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
It's awesome to have you, Scott. And, today it's Monday, August the 5th. Hopefully you haven't checked your brokerage account and you're tuning in. And really excited to talk to you about basically, we met in the Go-to-Market United group that you had, Scotty's Little Sales Club, Richard Harris. You have an upcoming, do you have any spots available for Surf and Sales that's coming up?
Yeah, we do. There's about 10 spots left. There's 2 different sessions that we're doing back to back in November. So we've got spots. One of the common misconceptions is you have to know how to surf before you go. That's not true. 90% of people who go have never surfed before at all. We provide surf lessons and help people get out there. And It's a good time, man. You could be in any kind of role. We've had CS people come, AEs come, VPs, founders, ops people, marketing people. We even had a CTO come last year for the first time, which is kind of cool.
That is awesome.
Yeah. Check it out.
I bet he had a blast, assuming he wasn't an introverted CTO.
No,
he was more on the extroverted side.
He was definitely more on the extroverted side, but it was really
Nice.
interesting. He came because he wanted to learn more about sales and learn more about salespeople and their mindset as he's building products and understand how they think about these things. So I thought it was really interesting and nice to have somebody from that world kind of come into our world a little bit and check it out, be willing to learn. So
Yeah, that's awesome. So we were brainstorming a little bit on how to best kick this episode off. Maybe a good starting point, since you've been on the show before, I'm not going to have you go into your whole background. Hopefully listeners out there already know who you are, but tell us what you've been up to for the last 6 months. What's top of mind for Scott Leese? Have you been focused more on your consulting business or more on the, surf and sales business, or some mix of all those things? Like, what's the North Star right now for Scott?
yeah, I took about a month off. Went
Nice.
to Spain and Morocco and Gibraltar and back east. So enjoyed a little bit of summer, but still focused on running my consulting business, working with primarily early stage companies trying to grow and scale. And I work with people from all around the world, all different segments and sales cycles, all that kind of stuff. Still working on surf and sales, trying to sell out these events, and we run our podcast over there as well. Pivoted away from this community that I was running called GTM United to a more specific kind of closed circuit audience. So I've been doing a lot of coaching with CROs, VPs of sales, and people running fractional kind of go-to-market businesses. So do a lot of coaching in that arena. And the most recent development is I've started picking up sort of fractional partnership roles for the first time, where people are coming to me saying, what's this go-to-market thing? What's this nearbound thing? How do you build it? What do you do? Will you participate? How do you get other people to participate? All this kind of stuff. So that's been my main focus the last couple months. All those things.
Well, Scott, what is something that's on your mind today? It seems like we've been really just seeing you come out on some LinkedIn posts about people talking about remote work, and they want people to go more back into the office. I would like to hear your feedback on that, and really.
Well, a lot of the things that I write are reactions to things I see other people putting out there that piss me off. So when I see some sort of old curmudgeon talking about how most people who work from home don't want to work and they're lazy, then I react and respond to it with counter arguments. When I see people putting content out there that's sort of telling executives not to negotiate their compensation package up front and not to ask about this thing or that thing, instead focus over here, and I don't agree with that advice, I get inspiration to write the opposite about it. So part of what I think I try to do is stay on the pulse of what's happening and what the chatter is all about, and provide an alternative school of thought, one that is less sort of pro VC and pro founder, and one that is more pro employee, pro executive. And I think I try to become a little bit of the voice for the voiceless sometimes, and just make sure people are educated as can be, and they can make their own choices, from there. So if you're ever seeing me write content about stuff, the odds are something has inspired it, and there's a story behind, whatever I'm writing about in the moment. Yeah.
What's your best advice for, your average seller out there, maybe above average performance, right? But just, the average individual contributor out there right now, what can they expect? I mean, there's just so much noise going on with like the work from home topic, or the remote going back into office. The economy's crazy. Everyone out there is, proclaiming that certain tactics are dead, whether true or not, right? Like people are proclaiming all these different things. It's really hard, I think, right now, just speaking from my own personal experiences as an individual contributor, as a seller, it's like, where should I put my eyes right now? All I can really focus on is the few things that I really have full span of control over. What's your best advice for someone out there who's like maybe mentally struggling in the game right now, wondering like, what the fuck am I supposed to be working on? And everybody's saying this thing and that thing. Everything's uncertain. What's your best advice there?
Well, stating some obvious things here, but it's a good idea to step away for a minute or two, recharge the battery, disconnect from everything. That's the first thing I think about. The second thing is, it's a real good time to prune your network, so to speak, and curate who you're getting advice from and whose content you're consuming and that type of thing. And dig into the people that, whose voice you resonate with the most, that is based on experience and success, not based on fluff or clickbait or something like that. Um, it's broken record for the last few years, but if you're not actively working on trying to grow your digital network right now on places like LinkedIn, you're going to struggle big time, I think, moving forward. I don't remember the last time somebody told me they found a job by blindly applying online someplace,
Yeah.
right? Well, I think pretty soon we'll be in a situation where somebody says, when was the last time you cold called or cold email your way into an open opportunity without getting referred in? And you can't run that play if you don't have any kind of network. So they should be focused on that. I think they should be learning more and more about business in general. One of the things that has suffered in the last few years because of all the tooling designed to make salespeople's jobs easier is a lot of business acumen has kind of fallen by the wayside. So if you're an above average seller, your ability to communicate with a founder and a business owner intelligently, not just about your product, but about the whole, ecosystem of running a business, I think that sets you apart. I think you need to find your tribe. I think there was a big micro community push in the last few years. I've been a huge part of it. I mean, I ran Thursday night sales for like 3 years, right? I've built multiple communities, but one of the things that I think people are fatigued on is being involved in these communities and having to sit through the noise of content that's not relevant to you. So you join it, even I'll just criticize myself rather than anybody else, but you join a Thursday night sales kind of event and you're there to hear about sales leadership and you have to listen to somebody ask questions. How do I cold call? I'm a new graduate. How do I find a job? And you're over there like, well, what the fuck? Like, when do I get to hear stuff that's relevant to me? And I think that's left like a frustrating experience now for people. I think they only want to hear stuff that is relevant and pertinent to them. So I think you need to be really careful who you surround yourself with, where you put your dollars in terms of who you're getting coached by and support from and that kind of thing. So I think there's even a stronger desire to like hyper curate a network of folks to block out some of that noise and confusion. You certainly talked about focusing only on the things that you control. It's not going to do any one of us any good to go look at our portfolio right now on the stock market slide today. That's not going to help any of us. It's not going to help any of us to worry about the, date of finding a new job or anything like that. It's like, you have to take care of the things that you do control, which is your skill set, your acumen, and probably your network, who you spend time with, and your work ethic, and it's not super in vogue to talk about work ethic anymore because people are worried about getting canceled for promoting a workaholic culture. But listen, it's much harder to replace somebody who's good at their job, puts in the time and energy and effort, and is outworking people than it is to replace somebody who's pretty good at their job that puts forth a 75% effort. If every business out there is looking to cut expenses, then you have to figure they're looking to cut you as well. Right. And if you're not putting in the right amount of work, I wouldn't be that surprised. Is it fair? Is it right? Should an employee care as much and work as much as a founder when the founder gets 40% ownership of the company and the executive gets 1%? Is that distribution of wealth upon an exit fair? Does that guy deserve 40 million to my 1 million? I don't think so. But the reality is, if I don't like it, I better go start something of my own. Otherwise, I better shut up and play the game and play it as good as I can, So I think people in moments like this where things are struggling, I think you need to remember you got to put in a lot of time and energy and effort, and whatever hack or shortcut you're looking for is probably not the way to succeed as we keep pushing the envelope of what the future of sales and startups is looking like.
Scott, I have a question for you. Since you've been in sales for like early 2000s, I think that's when you first got into sales. So you've seen
Yeah.
like the 2008, the 2020, or the COVID during these like big like shift time periods. What are some things that you've used as like a North Star to just keep moving forward as a IC, as an employee, and starting your own thing, especially when big shifts start to happen?
I I think my North Star has been just competing with myself, and remembering my why. Why am I here? What am I trying to do? Who is it for? All of these kinds of things. I don't go very long without remembering all of that stuff,
Hmm.
and I think a lot of people who get burned out or disillusioned, they just sort of forget like why they were in this game in the first place. And I think I've done a good job of not forgetting that. And then if I feel like I hit some sort of new level, I just came up with thing, a new thing to chase, a new reason, an amended why, you know, um, and then focus on diversification. I was a sales rep and I realized I liked helping other people close deals more than I liked closing my own.
Okay, tell me if this sounds like you. You're a sales hunter with literally hundreds of target accounts in your territory and no idea who in your patch is even in the market for your solution. You've pulled all the reports, built all the lists, and you've done a bunch of account research, but you're still in the dark about where to find your low hanging fruit. And look, you could waste another quarter smiling and dialing, grinding through a cold list, and blasting out emails, or you could do what I do and get Lead Feeder. Lead Feeder identifies the companies that visit your company's website and tracks on site activity so you can see which leads from your region are ready to buy right now. Lead Feeder has customizable notifications, lead scoring, routing, and it works seamlessly with your CRM system. Right now, Sales Players has got the hookup on an extended 21-day free trial offer. So be sure to use the link in the show notes to sign up. Oh, and you should probably forward that link over to your ops team so they can get Lead Feeder set up for your whole team. Stop burning time and resources on leads that don't convert and sign up for Lead Feeder.
So I got into sales leadership.
Yeah.
I'm in sales leadership and I started to realize the game is rigged. Okay. So I understand the game is rigged. I still got to play it, but I got to start preparing myself to be able to step away and run it, on my own terms a little bit. I do that and I keep looking for different opportunities that are out there. And, never stopping to, never stopping learning, never stop trying things, never stop taking some risks and never stop trying to help people, and I spend a lot of time every day doing the best I can to try to help people, whether that's advice or, taking calls, whatever it is. Uh, and, so far so good.
Yeah.
That all that stuff keeps coming back around and bears fruit for me as well, but that's what
Yeah.
it is. I'm pretty good at not getting distracted by all the chaos going around me and keeping a perspective of, what's the worst thing that could happen, man? Shit could be a lot worse than it is right now. So, if I draw on that and things I've already been through, it gives me perspective to recognize, I think, how special this opportunity is and how few of these opportunities we get and how I don't want to squander any of them. So I got two choices. I could sit around and pout and mope about it, or I could tell myself a different story and have a totally different perspective and follow that road wherever it goes. And that's the one I follow.
So you're in a lot of conversations with founders right now. Most of your consultancy is focused on early stage startups for the most part. Is that right?
Yeah. Like Series A, Series B, that's kind of my sweet spot. Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. Yeah. So you're probably working with a lot of I'm imagining like a lot of AI oriented companies, or at least that's what their messaging is to the marketplace.
Yeah.
What are some things you're hearing there from this? Like, what's the next wave of tech startups is my question. I was part of this, like, the ZERP era, like call it the last decade plus of high growth, build a huge team. As soon as you raise your, 20, 30, 40 million in funding or whatever, and, scale sales out with human bodies, right? And SDRs, reps, there's sales enablement, there's sales ops. It's just these like big chunky organizations, right? Where there's like a lot of personnel. And my hypothesis is like, we're going away from that. We're moving into an era where like startups are going to do more with less because of things like AI, because of the tooling that's available now, because of the skills that are available now in the marketplace. What kind of things are you hearing from your founder clients on that front?
Yeah, I definitely think it's a mindset of how do we do more with less?
Lean.
Nobody is out there trying to hire, a dozen people at a time or something like that, like you probably experienced. I think we're entering an era where people are going to start to try to chase down, $1 billion valuation with like 5 employees, for a 1 or 2 person company that's capable of doing 100 million in ARR. I think those types of companies, those types of opportunities are super top of mind and attractive for VCs right now. That's
Yeah.
that they love to hear all that stuff. That doesn't necessarily bode well for people who are not entrepreneurial and who
Yeah.
want to just slot in and do, kind of show up at 9, leave at 5, do their job and go home. Um, so it can be a scary thing to dwell on a little bit as you start to slide towards this futuristic dystopian kind of universe where if you're not participating in some sort of entrepreneur type way, where are you going to go work? Who are you going to work for? What are you going to do? Right. I mean, Bill Gates, I think it was Bill Gates just said
Or
something.
was it Mark Andreessen who wrote like the 9 to 5's dead or whatever?
Oh, that's Reid Hoffman wrote about
Reid Hoffman.
9
That's
to
right.
5 being dead. But Bill Gates said something where he was like, something to the effect of 20 years from now, you're sending all your kids to college. If you've got young kids, they're going to go to college, but like, what are they going to go do? What are you prepping them to do? Because all these jobs are going to be done by AI or by robots or whatever, and it's like, people don't want to think about that because it's scary and it threatens your livelihood and it, your ability to feel important or relevant or whatnot. And you don't want to go learn new skills. I get it. When people are scared, they get aggressive and the claws come out and they start yelling more and they try to be louder than other people in the room and whatnot. But
Yeah.
that's the direction that I see things going. Right now, the kind of in vogue thing to satiate people from fear is like, oh, they're not here to replace you. The AI is just like an Iron Man suit that you put on and it makes you do your job better. It's here to augment, human skills, not replace human skills. It's like, you think I'm a fucking idiot? Okay. Apparently you do. It's like, I can see your Trojan horse coming from a mile away. I know there's soldiers inside this wooden horse. And once it empties, they're coming after me. Like, but who knows? I could be wrong. I don't feel like I'm going to be wrong, but, yeah.
No, I think you see it. It's crazy when I look back. I've maybe shared this with you before, but I was part of an organization where we hired 35 SDRs in a 6-month period. I was part of the hiring group for that company. And, we interviewed and brought on 35 SDRs. And I'm like, that would never fly. And this was a few years ago, obviously. That'll never happen again. That'll never happen again. Heck.
Yeah, it's very hard to imagine that happening again. Very hard. I mean, in a more practical, maybe less sort of spooky light, one of the main focuses for people right now is enablement and trying to make people succeed more. Some of that ties into the remote versus in office. It seems like it's been a lot easier to onboard and train people when they're in the room with you. And, if you hire 4 or 5 people and they're all in 5 different states and everybody's on Zoom. It's not so simple. So there's a lot of chatter, around that, but at the same time, it's also the first thing that gets cut when budgets are like tight. So how are we threading that needle? If you were going to hire 35 SDRs right now in a remote first environment, how are you going to train all these people? How are you going to onboard these people? How are you going to help them be super successful? That's been the challenge. I think a lot of people have not figured it out, which leads to people saying, hey, everybody needs to come back to the office. You guys aren't working as hard, which is sort of a code for, I have no idea how to make you successful when you work at home. So I need you to come back to the office because in the office, I think I know what to do. Right. And there's a push and pull going on there. It seems like every other day somebody's like, oh, they want us back in the office a couple times a week. It's like, that's not going to last, man. It's not, it might last a little bit with people who are, of age and have families and adults, and they can be kind of pushed around and controlled a little bit right now. But, go talk to a teenager right now. Ask them what they think about commuting to and from an office and going into an office and working with people. I dare you.
Yeah, it's not going to happen. It's like,
they think it's like absurd. My 2 kids are 16 and 14 years old, my 2 boys. They cannot fathom a world where they would go into an office to go do some work. They will literally be like, can I do this work at home? Or is it like totally different type of work? I'm like, no, you could technically do it from anywhere in the world. Like, why do I have to be around all those people? Well, you don't really. It's like culture. So you could talk to people. He's like, I don't.
Water cooler.
They're like, why do I have to talk to people? Like, well,
just message them.
That's the world that they live in. We're all laughing because we didn't grow up in that world. Right?
Yeah.
Right.
But I said something to them the other day. I said, well, one of the arguments I get is that people always will want to buy from people.
Mm-hmm.
And my son was like, no, your old ass wants to buy from people. I don't need a person in order to buy something from somebody. He's not experiencing the world in that way. He's growing up in a world where are humans more trustworthy than a robot or AI? Is it? Everywhere you go, it's all misinformation and false words and fake news and whatnot, right? He's growing up in a world where you get on Twitter and like, what's real? What's
right?
Yeah. So why do I feel like I have to talk to a person? They also don't socialize the same way we did when we were in high school. When I was in high school, like, find your friends, you go do this, you go do that. I'd leave at 9 o'clock in the morning. I just had to be back before sunset. That shit doesn't happen. They stay home. They don't socialize the same way. They don't call people. They don't talk on the phone. They barely even text each other. They Snapchat.
Yeah. You snap.
Right? Or they message each other on Instagram or whatever. So you mean to tell me when these kids, in 5-6 years, like enter the workforce, that they're going to be willingly drug into an office where they have to commute 30 to 60 minutes each direction? There is no fucking way that will fly. And all that has to happen is the business owners who right now are like mid 40s to mid 60s, all that has to happen is those people age out of running the show, and people who are in their 30s right now, who know what it was like to be in the office and know what it's like to work from home, those people become the ones running most of the businesses. And they're like, I don't care if you're in the office or not. That's how I see the direction going. And you don't believe me? Then dig into like commercial real estate forecasts for the next 10, 15 years.
Oh yeah.
They look absolutely like collapse.
Yeah.
Titanic levels of sinking. Right. Okay. Well, if everybody was confident in commercial real estate that the future of the work environment was back to the office, why would people in commercial real estate be panicking right now?
Yeah.
I don't know. Somebody smarter than me can answer that question, I guess.
So I'm really curious, like what kind of guidance because you have teenage kids, right?
Yeah.
What kind of guidance do you give them on career? Like how as a parent, and I have younger kids, but I've been thinking a lot about, do I encourage these kids to go to college? Do I just let them carve some other
Yeah.
path? Do I just teach them important skills that they can use in the world, like negotiation or sales or
Yeah.
whatever, building a website or building a bot? Like, what kind of things do you tell your kids, I guess, in terms of like guidance, or have they asked for it? Or maybe they just not like, maybe they're
Well,
too young still, but
well, first of all, I know you don't have older kids because teenagers don't ask you for guidance for anything, bro.
that's,
They don't want
yeah,
to hear. They don't want to hear anything that you have to say because you're an idiot and you're wrong. So we should just know that. Uh, I Mine are at the age where they're starting to be whispers of college and where they might want to
mhm,
go and that kind of thing. Not really to a point of what they want to study, but what I've told them is depending on what kind of life they want to lead and where their interests are, and if any of those interests skew towards business at all, there's three skills that I think are kind of critical. And if you were going to focus on these skills, this is what it would be. Number one would be like coding, engineering, product development, that you can build stuff. You can build anything, right? I don't have that skill. That's a flaw,
me
for
neither.
me, right?
Hmm.
The second one would be sales acumen, learning how to sell, learning how to market, right? Um, if you run your own business of any kind, at some point you have to learn some salesmanship. And the third one would just be basic human psychology, sociology, how human beings think, operate, who we are, know yourself, know others. I think that's like the holy trifecta of of business skills. If you have all of those, you're in pretty good shape and you can figure things out, you know?
Yeah. I think it was Guy Kawasaki who said this was even years ago. This is probably 10 or 15 years ago that he said something like, if you don't know how to build or sell, lean towards one of those two things and you'll stay relevant in any
Yeah.
business really. So you're either building a product and designing it and bringing it to market, or you're, on the sales acumen side, like you said, and you know how to get an audience and build interest and all those sorts of things.
And both of those, you could argue, would benefit from understanding psychology and just like how human beings think and operate and what
Mhm.
motivates them and how to manage them and stuff like that. So yeah, I agree.
Scott, what is the age of like these companies that you're working with? What are the ages of the founders? Are they your age? Are they
Yeah,
younger?
good question. Ages of the founders. I would say mid 20s to mid 50s.
Okay.
I would say that
Wow.
there's been a surprising number of older founders, like, my age, whatnot. And,
Interesting.
and maybe, I don't know, maybe just because I'm older now, but 10 years ago, I would have said all the founders seem to be between 25 and 35, you know, and now it feels like there's many, many more who are older, who
Hmm.
maybe went through a few rounds working for somebody else and they hit this, 40-year-old milestone. And they're like, now it's time. I mean, I don't think that I'll ever start a software company, but if I did, I'm 47 years old right now. I'd have 20 plus years of business experience, sales experience, consulting experience, all these things. I would be
Yeah.
100 times better than I would have been 20 years ago as a founder, as a CEO, as a salesperson, as a people manager, for sure. Right.
Hmm.
And so I don't think that I don't think that's a negative. I actually kind of see it as a positive more than anything.
And do you, as a
Yeah.
consultant, do you change the way that you speak to like an older founder versus a younger founder? Do you feel like you need to communicate with them on like more Slack, texting, or
Eh, I don't change the way I communicate. The modality that I use is different a little bit.
Mhm.
You
okay?
know, there's somebody who wants to use email for everything versus somebody who wants to use Slack for everything. There's somebody who's cool with the Google suite of products, and there's somebody else who wants to use Notion for everything. So there's little things like that. But the way I communicate, I don't think is that different, you know?
Yeah, that's interesting to hear that there's more founders that are skewing a little bit older, because I came up in the generation where it was like Zuckerberg and,
Yeah.
these like 19, 20-year-old founders
Yeah.
starting things, the like, what is it? I'm trying to think of some other examples, but like,
If you haven't started a company by the
Dropbox
time, if you didn't start a company by the time you're 30, you're like a loser. You have no chance.
exactly.
That's how it felt. Yeah.
Yeah, it really did. Like it definitely made you like feel very urgent. And I know, and for a long time, the sentiment was always like, once you turn 40 in tech, you're either a manager or you're going to get pushed out of the industry. I hope that's not true anymore. I think that's bullshit, but it's good to hear that there's more people that have different options, different paths. And, we've talked to a lot of people just from your own community, like talking to Richard and stuff and hearing about how he launched his thing. And Shane Jameson was on the show a while back, like hearing how he just went for it, just decided like, hey, I could stay in this like rat race of being an enterprise seller for another couple of decades, or I could bet on myself and just go all in. So it's exciting to hear. And while like it's crazy times, it's also encouraging to hear that there's maybe more potential opportunities for like unshackling yourself from just the standard career path of like coming in, climbing the corporate ranks.
That's definitely true, right? I mean, there has never been a time in my life where it's been easier to build a side hustle or build a company than right now. You can get paid for influence, for God's sake. You can build digital assets and distribute them. You can run a podcast and get sponsors for the podcast if you have enough people listening to the show. It's like, somebody who's trying to be a jerk might be like, well, that's not a real business. It's like, okay, bitch, I made $200,000 on podcast sponsorships last year. That's not a real business.
Yeah,
okay, I guess I have to do something else, right? Or somebody said to me one time, like, well, you've never been a founder of a real business. And I'm like, I did $2.5 million last year with 90% margin, but okay, I didn't start a software company.
God.
Like,
what?
So you have like the old guard who critiques the new guard in the way that they go about things, but the reality is, you can monetize damn near anything now through the creator economy, through how easy it is to start a business of any kind. There's do it for you, like entity formation platforms that are out there where you don't even have to do shit, and bang, bang, you're registered and whatnot.
Yeah.
And you can survive depending on your lifestyle and on building a little widget, a little app. It doesn't have to be this $1 billion plus thing. So there's a lifestyle, lots of lifestyle kind of businesses. And if you compound these different lifestyle businesses on top of each other, I think what people are figuring out is they can make just as much, if not a lot more, doing all this stuff for themselves without having to deal with, some unhealthy to potentially traumatic workplace experience stuff that you've historically had to earn your stripes for 20 something years before you finally get to this place where, you're qualified to run a business or something like that.
That's so irritating. I'm assuming whoever is giving that criticism that like a podcast isn't a real business, or, a media like influencer company is not a real company, is some tech person, but it's
100%. Yeah.
Like, how many of those companies don't make any cash? Like,
exactly.
It's all, they raise like tens of millions of dollars.
You're living on borrowed money.
Yeah.
How much can you borrow?
Yeah. You're a real founder because you raised $25 million, but your burn is $500K a month and you make basically no revenue. But these guys running a podcast, making a couple $100,000 for the year, that's not a real business, even though they're profitable.
Ridiculous.
Got it.
That's so ridiculous.
Got it. Yeah.
Yeah. That's so frustrating.
That's the prevailing kind of mindset still for
Yeah.
Well, Scott, I want to give you a shout out. I reached out to you a long time ago when I was an individual contributor. I just shut down my company I was a founder. I call myself a recovering founder. I had a juice bar and smoothie bar. Stupid, it's like that was really probably the hardest thing in my life to do. We had it for like 10 years. COVID happened. Also had a valet company, but I just reached out to you and you gave me some amazing feedback. And one of the pieces of feedback of just going to the little sales players group was start making introductions to other SaaS companies because they might give you an actual payback. And
Oh yeah.
I took that advice and I made a few,
Good for
more
you, man.
than, I made a few thousand off of that.
Yeah.
And
Good.
that was like actionable advice that I took from you that was impactful. And it allowed me to like get into the role that I'm at today. And I wasn't shackled into my role because I was like, okay, you know what? I can do some other things and I have a little bit more cushion. And
Yeah.
I just wish more people would know about this stuff.
Yeah. I love that. It makes me happy to
I'll
hear.
I'll add on. I think I've told you this, Scott, but like I watched the video that you did on affiliate, B2B affiliate sales or marketing, whatever you want to call it, the Tequila Tuesday that you did. And for me, it was like this huge light bulb went off because I was like, I already know how to sell.
Yes. It's like so obvious
I,
that you almost
this
feel
has always been
dumb.
my right. It's like, this is too easy, right? Like all you got to do is like sign up for someone's partner program or reach out to someone on the team and say, I want to refer you business. How do we work this out? And it feels like you get a lot of pushback. Everybody wants to do it. Everyone's like, oh, great, another sales channel. And it's been a game changer for this show too, because we've been able to use affiliates to then book sponsors who are paying us, hard dollars for the sponsorship.
Yep.
But then we also get compensated on the upside. And it's so crazy to me how many people I talk to in my sales network. These are people with, anywhere from 10 to 20 years as a seller. And they're like, what are you doing? And I'm like, oh, this is a game changer. This is going to make you minimum an extra $1,000 a month.
Yeah. If you're running this play right now, you're still in the 99.9th percentile. Almost nobody is doing it, even though it's so easy,
And I think it'll start to become a career at some point where this is how you've already done it. I mean, you're clearly making more than a living doing it every single year. I know you may be like a huge outlier because of the size of your audience and how long you've been at it and the network you have. But I think this is a path that a lot of people will take where rather than go and join, some hot Silicon Valley startup at Series B or C, and climb the ranks, is like maybe come in and learn some sales skills, learn enough to build enough of a network, and then when you're at the like 5 or 7 or 10-year mark of your career, it's like go branch out and build your own thing, where you can, instead of selling one product, you get to have 10 or 20 partners that you can recommend. I think it's amazing, and it's like it's pretty much all upside because it's an introduction. For most of it, it's just like an introduction, and it's not, you don't have to learn all the in-depth nitty gritty product details. It's really just like, let me help you get introduced to the people that sell this, and I'm going to take a commission on it. That's in a lot of cases higher than the commissions you even see in a standard comp plan in SaaS, which is wild.
Isn't that crazy?
So,
yeah. I mean, imagine you're signed up as an affiliate for XYZ company, and they pay 20% of first year's revenue, right? If you were a salesperson for that company, you get between 8 and 12% typically, right? Yeah. And, you get that lowered amount because you have a base salary, you have insurance, you have all these other things. But if you don't need those things, you're actually getting paid way more. And it's a lot less work. Not only do I not have to run a sales cycle, I don't have to pitch you. I don't have to get trained because I really don't have to know the product very well. Certainly don't have to know it inside and out. I just have to know enough people, right? And be trusted by those people enough that they'll take these meetings. And when you can run that play at scale, you never know what can happen. I'll give you a perfect example. I met with a client earlier today. They're working on this with me right now. We're doing like a fractional partnership deal, and I'm teaching them how to run this play. They put a list of 225 prospects in front of me. These are people, contacts at companies that they want to sell to. all first degree LinkedIn connections of mine. I just skimmed it when we were on the call. I didn't click on a single profile. I just skimmed it. And there was 17 names out of 225 that I recognized like that I'm like, I could probably text this person today and get a response from it. Right. These people's average deal size is 50K. So 17 times 50,000, that's $850,000 worth of pipeline. So if we operate under a very conservative assumption that 10% of pipeline will close, that's 85K of ARR that I just like contributed right now today, which worst case scenario is $8,500 for me, 10%.
Wow.
That is what, $100,000 a year ish, something like that. 8,500 times 12, $102,000 a year.
Yeah, six-figure business from that.
And Scott, are you using
one
Bronto?
company, bro? That's just one company.
Is that Bronto how you're bringing up everything, or how are you bringing up that list?
I don't bring up the list. I make them generate the list for me
On Bronto, or are they using a tool?
I mean, I don't force. I mean, they could use ComSor. They've pivoted from the name Bronto.
Sorry,
you could use ComSor. You could use High Five. You could use the Swarm. All of these platforms are trying to solve the same problem, and I've talked to and I'm friends with all of them. But if a company doesn't want to use one of those or doesn't want to spend the money or whatever, like, what a mistake and a missed opportunity to not pursue it because you don't want to do a little bit of legwork. Like, just dump a bunch of names into an Excel spreadsheet and send it over to Chase and see who he knows, right? That's one company that I just potentially could make $8,500 from in 1 month. Right? It's a big mistake to sleep on this. You know, I think you're 100% right, Jesse. Like, you could exist solely off of being a connector and an introductory kind of person, you know, depending on how much money you need to earn. There's plenty of people out there that $102,000 a year would be a massive upgrade, right? It's a lot better than being an SDR and write perfect email to somebody or make 50 calls a day to the right person at the right time, and maybe you get 102K max on your OTE.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
And it's uncapped. Like the field is green, uncapped. You know, you could work with as many different companies as you want. As many as you want.
Don't be sleeping on this, people. Don't be sleeping on this advice. You got to go to Surf and Sales to learn more, right? You're going to teach more.
Every time we do Surf and Sales, the last couple of times I've done like an hour and a half session on this exact thing, both to make sure you know how to run this play from an employer perspective to benefit your company and grow your ARR. And then also from a individual's perspective, like how you as a person can run this play to generate more income for yourself. And that's why it works, is because it's a win-win-win. You know, in theory, I get paid to help Jesse close deals with Chase, and Chase is happy because his problem got solved and he didn't have to get interrupted or distracted through a messy like sales process. Everybody's happy in theory, right? That's the beauty of it.
And the salesperson, the AE, is happy too, because it's a warm lead and they're able to close it faster.
They close faster. They have a higher average contract value. There's inherent trust already there, right? Yeah.
So Scott, I know we're pretty close to our hour with you. In closing, curious, just any final thoughts or words of wisdom to the Sales Players fans out there? Anything, you know, related to what we talked about, affiliate stuff, the marketplace, whatever. What advice are you? Any final thoughts, I should say?
Yeah, I mean, I try to summarize some of the final thoughts, but you know, it's like, spend time actively growing your network. spend time around the right people who are thinking about the future of business, of sales, of entrepreneurship, new and creative ways to get stuff done. Start trying to monetize these things. You don't need to wait till you're working for yourself or whatever. Keep your eyes open about what's coming in the future. Don't bury your head in the sand. Be very careful about who you listen to advice from. Try not to listen to advice only from one side of the argument. Open yourself up to both and then make your own choices. And focus as much as you can on the things that you control and try to tune out all the other stuff. Simple, basic kind of advice.
Give me 2 creators that you're really jiving with lately that you're listening to.
Oh, wow. 2 creators. So there's this guy named Devin Henning who wrote a book called The Sales Compensation Bible that I loved.
Okay.
It's all about negotiation and executive level compensation and stuff like that. So I've been writing about that a lot for the last 2 weeks because it's been top of mind for me. He's not super well known. I think he only has 3,000 or 4,000 followers on LinkedIn, but perfect example of a creator that's got tons of good, digestible, actionable content that people maybe don't know. So that's the first name that comes to mind.
He's coming on the show. We've got him booked, so that's good.
Oh,
Excited
yeah, there you
about
go.
That.
Yeah.
There you go.
Next, trying to think of somebody off the beaten path a little bit.
We just had Dan Goodman on.
Oh, that's not off the
last
beaten
week.
path.
No, that guy. I love that
Yeah.
guy. But
Let me tell you.
Yeah.
Let me tell you a funny Dan Goodman
Yeah.
story. Okay, I have a million funny Dan Goodman stories, but
That
this guy
guy's
reaches
God.
out to me 2.5 years ago in the middle of pandemic, right? And if you don't know Dan, his personality is shot out of a cannon, right? He's loud, Boston.
He's Boston proud, Boston strong.
Yep. Talk. Never. Silence is a bad thing. That's Dan. So he's asking me for random advice, and I'm talking to him about LinkedIn as an opportunity. And he's fighting me every step of the way. Every step of the way. Finally, he's like, fine, I'll start running content. We'll see what happens. So he starts writing content, and I'm like, dude, your content is trash. It's so bad. It's you're selling the whole time. All you're doing is talking about who you are, what you do. You're not trying to help anybody. Da, da, da. And I'm just delivering him this blunt, feedback. And he starts changing it. And his whole thing that he does pivoted away from this software platform to this service that he now provides to people. And, he's super LinkedIn famous. He's probably got 70 something thousand followers at this point in time. And, I saw him a couple of weeks ago when I was in Boston. We went to a Red Sox game together. He was just I tell everybody that I talk to, Scott, that, you yelled at me and I got my start from you telling me I was terrible.
It sounds like he gets some crazy reach on his content. It does resonate for sure. Well,
the beautiful thing about what he does is that he reaches a broad audience.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right? And so
resonates with everybody.
That's right. So the more broad your brushstrokes are when you're a content creator, the more opportunity you have to go viral. The more niche you are, the harder it is to go viral. Well, what he talks about in terms of, making sure people are taken care of on the way out and severance payments and negotiation and stuff like that, that's relevant to everybody, so he's found himself a really nice niche there.
All right. Well, we got the second creator, Dan Goodman. He gets a big shout out.
Jesse stole that one. He just put it out there.
There we go. Well, Scott, this has been awesome. Great seeing you, brother.
Yeah.
And
you too,
I'm going to get out to surf and sales one of these days. We'll get you out to Kentucky and do some bourbon tasting.
I got to go to the Derby. I've never been.
Let's do surf and derby.
My bucket list.
We should surf and derby. I can make it happen.
I like that.
Make it happen.
We'll have to work on that. You heard it here first. Next year,
2025.
Yeah.
First Saturday.
All right,
in
guys.
May.
Scott.
All right. See
All
you.
right, guys.
Talk to you, man.
Yeah.